Welcome to the UK news on October 4th in 2021. Oh, Nigel Farage is in the news again. Nigel Farage claims to have been hit by a delivery truck while looking for fuel. On Twitter, the former leader of the Brexit party complained about empty petrol stations across the country. Farage wrote that he scoured 7 petrol stations that were running out of fuel before finally finding one to refuel at. But this is apparently not enough. At a roundabout, he was hit by a delivery truck, Farage continues. A great way to start the day, he wrote. In his tweet, he also attacked the government of Boris Johnson, who he accused of downplaying the crisis. I mean, he did find a delivery truck to be hit by. That's rare. Today's radio host did not provide any information about whether he was injured in the collision. The lorry crisis, the shortage of truck drivers, recently reached a new level of escalation. According to industry estimates, the UK is short of around 100,000 truck drivers. Brexit and the corona pandemic are cited as the causes of the crisis, although Brexit is not cited by that government. Former MEP Farage is seen as the driving force behind Britain's exit from the EU and one of the most influential British politicians in recent years. In 2019, he founded the Brexit Party, which is now called Reform UK. Only a few months later, the party became the strongest force in Great Britain in the elections to the EU Parliament. This increased the pressure on the Conservative government to take a tough course in the Brexit negotiations. In March, Mr. Brexit withdrew from politics. The Brexit was done, that will not be withdrawn, Farage said at the time. Yeah, truck drivers. Military action against fuel shortages is the next step then. In Great Britain, soldiers are to be deployed from today to curb the fuel shortage at British petrol stations. Almost 200 members of the armed forces, including 100 truck drivers, are to provide temporary support to end the chaos at British petrol stations, the government headquarters Downing Street announced on Saturday. It is unlikely that this type of fleet management can permanently replace the missing truck drivers in Great Britain. The government therefore did not limit itself to calling for help to the army, but instead expanded its job offers for foreign truck drivers. Up to 300 drivers from abroad should receive immediate work visas, which should be valid until March. So far, the government had tried to lure applicants from abroad to the island with temporary visas until Christmas. This plan has just as failed to work as the attempt to recruit workers from abroad for poorly paid work in large laundries. Since there's now a lack of employees in these companies too, dirty laundry is piling up in many places in Great Britain. The British government around Boris Johnson blames the corona pandemic for the problems and denies that the problems of the shortage of workers are a result of Brexit. Yeah, living in denial. In Great Britain, there have been extreme bottlenecks at many petrol stations for more than a week. Many are closed. Long lines form at the rest of them. In some cases, motorists fought over their scarce fuel supplies. In some parts of the country, the situation is said to have improved a little. According to a large petrol station association, this does not apply to London and the southeast. While the situation in Scotland, the north of England, and parts of the Midlands have improved, it has as best gotten worse in the south, said Brian Madison, head of the Petrol Retailers Association, to the BBC on Saturday. And Scotland is quite a good point here. Scotland has launched a new scholarship program to bring more EU students back to its universities. Over the past year, there has unfortunately been a dramatic decline in applications from EU students wishing to attend university in the country, said Scottish Secretary of State for Further Education Jamie Hepburn. We want to do everything we can to undo the damage that Brexit has wrought and to promote Scotland's educational offerings worldwide, he said. The program, which is funded with £2.25 million, is intended to financially support hundreds of students from the European Union starting this fall to study at Scottish universities. This year, 41% fewer EU candidates applied to Scottish universities than in the previous year. According to figures from the Central Registry UCAS, that's Universities and College Admission Service, the decline was even greater in the UK as a whole. With Brexit, Great Britain, or the UK, also withdrew from the EU exchange program Erasmus, with which uncomplicated semesters abroad were possible. The government of Prime Minister Boris Johnson wants to enable British students to stay abroad far beyond Europe with a so-called Turing program. However, foreign students at British universities are no longer funded. The number of German students, for example, at British universities has also halved within a year. In autumn 2020, 1,600 Germans started at universities in Great Britain. This year, only 800. The Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon wants to hold another independence referendum and, in the event of a victory, lead her country back into the EU as an independent state, independent from London. The Scots voted against Brexit in 2016 with a clear majority. And because of Brexit, in future, travellers from the EU will need a passport to enter Great Britain. With a few exceptions, as of October 1st, an identity card is no longer sufficient to enter the country, as can be seen from the official entry rules. So far, there has been a transition phase since Brexit in which one could still cross the border with such an ID. Only for EU citizens who are resident in the United Kingdom should an identity card be sufficient for entry now after the deadline. However, this could still lead to complications at the border. Proof of right of residence, the so-called settled or pre-settled status after Brexit, can only be obtained via a digital portal of the British Home Office. Civil rights organizations such as the 3 Million have long been demanding physical proof of right of residence, that means in the form of a paper card or a printable document. However, a visa is not required for holidays in Great Britain, for example, provided you do not stay in the country for more than 90 days when you come from the EU. And that's not the only thing that came with Brexit. According to an industry study, Brexit will cost British fishermen around £300 million in losses by 2026. If the British government does not negotiate more rights in negotiations with international partners, losses of £64 million per year can be expected, said the Association of British Fisheries Organisations, the NFFO. This is in strong discrepancy with the government's announcement that the industry will earn £148 million more by 2026 thanks to Brexit. Fisheries was one of the most emotional issues in the EU-UK Brexit negotiations. Until recently, both sides argued about a quota system that would allow EU fishermen to continue fishing in British waters. Because of the promise that Britain would regain control of its waters after leaving the EU, many fishermen had campaigned and voted for Brexit. 3/4 of a year after the final exit from the EU, the industry was now disillusioned. The best opportunity in a generation to revitalize the UK fishing industry and support our coastal communities has been wasted, said NFFO chief Barry Diaz. There was also criticism of the quota system. The study said that Great Britain has grown on paper here. However, these are mainly fish that are not fished for various reasons. Missing agreements with Norway as well as the Faroe Islands and Greenland, both of which belong to Denmark, have also reduced the fishing opportunities for large parts of the British fleet, it's said. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.